All right, music fans, welcome. It's Harmless Me, real music, real time, real people, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. Another one of these died suddenly from complications. All right, here we go. Jim Beard. Who is Jim Beard? Who was Jim Beard? Well, he played keyboards in Steely Dan and recently was on tour with Steely Dan as they were supporting the Eagles on their so-called long goodbye tour. All right. According to a statement, the composer, producer, and arranger died on March the 2nd from complications due to a sudden illness. I had a couple of patrons from my channel send this to me. They were stunned and they were in disbelief of this, as one person was very well acquainted with Jim Beard and thought this to be strange because he had seen Steely Dan and the Eagles perform not too long ago, and then now all of a sudden Jim Beard is no more. The musician had been a touring performer with Steely Dan since 2008. Most recently, he was on tour with the band as they supported the Eagles on their long goodbye tour. Beard was born on August 26th in 1960 in Philadelphia. By his teens, he was studying and arranging with jazz composer and trombonist Don Sebesky and learning piano from British keyboardist George Shearing. So this guy was a really good musician, obviously. In 1985, Beard moved to New York City, where he continued to pick up gigs and play live and in the studio with jazz and fusion musicians. He became a touring member of guitarist John McLaughlin's band in the mid-1980s and started working with saxophonist Wayne Shorter in 1986. Over the next half-decade, Beard toured with jazz musicians Joe Schofield and Pat Metheny. This is a really great musician. The statement announcing Beard's death notes that he died in a New York hospital, surrounded by loved ones, and is survived by a son, daughter, his mother, and a brother and sister. So anyway, we have no idea what caused this. I want to be perfectly clear. I never know what is really going on here, but this sounds a little strange. And I've done a number of videos and people have thanked me for keeping this in the news. And because it's a band I like, on top of it, I'm a huge Steely Dan fan. This is a tragedy. Nobody, by the way, here is asking for any thoughts or prayers, so I will send the prayers out. And the other thing I'd like to pray for is, let's pray that this mysterious whatever is going on out there stops. I mean, when people write articles and they write things like complications due to a sudden illness, and yeah, you can go back in time and read some vague things, but since 2021, right, and we're going on 3 years of this garbage, until this is all brought to light and the mainstream media, I'm talking about ABC, NBC, CBS, all of your cable channels, including Fox News, by the way, they need to all come clean and say, okay, this is what's happening out there. Or maybe, like 60 Minutes, remember? They used to do investigative journalism years ago. They weren't trying to just, trip up the Moms for Liberty or something. They were actually doing real journalism. So if this is happening, this guy was perfectly healthy. He was out on tour. He was a great musician. His pedigree is impeccable. We learn more about him, of course, than what took this poor fellow out. And it's just sad. And this happens every time I do one of these videos. So again, Maybe you don't care. Maybe I should stay in my lane. By the way, I drive on all parts of the road. I'll just go wherever this thing takes me. We're only here for a short time. And what I'd like to leave is a legacy of caring about humanity. I don't have to care about people as individuals, maybe. Maybe people are really difficult to deal with, but if humanity is going to continue, right? Well, we've got to get to the bottom of this issue. And hey, once we find out that it was something else and you were totally wrong, Dave, like you always are, and you should just move on with it. And look, I really want to move on. I really want to move on. I mean, what was it? Senator Ron Johnson. I don't know if you're familiar with Senator Johnson, but he commissioned a little round table, all right, of what I would consider to be the smartest people on this topic. And they were all together in one room. It's hard to argue with statistics and peer-reviewed studies. It's hard to argue with those things. And so shouldn't there be an investigation? I mean, like I used that car seat analogy not too long. If one car seat fails, they recall the entire thing. One, because they're concerned, little babies and so forth. Well, I don't know, maybe because, 63 is what the new 80 or new 90. I don't know, 63. That's not far away for yours truly. 63. Folks, we can do better, and we should do better, and we should ask those around us to do better. We need to start calling our local TV station. Hey, what do you think the cause here was? Should we care? No, the family needs privacy. Leave them alone. All right, but after the privacy, after that kind of dies down, can then we kind of look in to see what happened here? I mean, maybe we can turn tragedy into something that is good for humanity down the road. Like we can learn from the tragedy and prevent more tragedy. Wouldn't that be cool? Does anybody care? I mean, I have a lot of people that will subscribe to this channel or even reach out to me through Patreon. And they'll say really nice things like, I'm glad you're keeping this issue alive. We've got to do more than keep the issue alive. We've really got to now put pressure on these so-called leaders in our government. And by the way, little side note here, we have an election coming up, right? You've got the guy who is the father of Operation Warp Speed, taking on the guy who drove Warp Speed even faster and never wanted it to end. And you know who got this to end? Certain states that said, we're done. We're done with this. We're not doing this anymore. And that's what turned things around, the people at the grassroots. So you're not going to have any accountability on this issue if it's these two guys, which it looks like it's going to be these two guys, obviously. So there's still going to be no accountability. That doesn't bode well. All right. So it's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to me. I'll keep sounding the alarm. And look, again, let me say this clearly here. I have no proof on this issue, on this person, Jim Beard. I have no proof of any of this stuff. He's from New York City, the lockdown capital of the world, right? Moved there in 1985. I'm sure he drank in the culture. I'm sure he hung around with people who said, hey, I'm up to date. Are you? Yeah, it would be stupid. Trust the science. I trust the science, don't you? Yeah, it's not even a question of me. Of course, as soon as the new one's available, heck, I'm going to do it because everybody in my group will do it. New York City? Yeah, that's the capital of all of this. That's ground zero. First of all, it was the place where people were the most frightened. and it was the place where people did the most overreacting. And then it was the place that turned into a ghost town. And I don't think that city is ever going to be the same like they were prior to that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will bounce back. A lot of things that I think won't recover end up recovering. People say they're going to boycott this product, for instance, and then, 6 months later, they're not boycotting that product anymore. They don't really care. People have short attention spans. On this one, though, it's not just a cultural thing. This is a medical thing. And I think people need to care. So again, that's my video. Pray for, I don't know, people in New York City aren't probably praying for Jim Beard and his family. Doesn't mean that people who believe in God can't pray for this person and their family. We should. And we should also pray that this would stop happening in this way. Doesn't matter what's causing it. Somebody who's 63 is way too young. Way too young. I would say that at 83, probably. Too young. I mean, life expectancy, folks, was supposed to go up. I think Donald Fagen sung a song about this, right? IGY. What a wonderful, I mean, maybe not about life expectancy, but about the future. And now the future does not look as bright as that song portrayed it to be.